Welcome back. It's been a while. Obviously life is fairly busy, so I'm not able to create as many videos as before. But so many things have happened within the last month or so that we have no shortage of information. Now, within the previous videos, I've covered baseball. I covered the lies being told to us about the Charlie Kirk assassination, and all the politics that are going on in the world. Now, today I purchased something, and it was the first exposure I got to this new penny shortage. So, any of you that are watching this with the United States, realize that in the beginning of 2026, the actual stamping of the penny is going to be cut out. They're not going to make any additional pennies. That the actual function to create pennies isn't worth the material that it's made out of. So, in this video today, we're going to be covering the materials of different metals and what their worth is within the world. Okay, so we're going to get into that. We're going to go all the way through fire trucks and EV vehicles. Now, many of the individuals that are in the performance market, we don't necessarily like EVs because of the dependency of having to plug in, and your range is limited. You don't necessarily have the freedom that goes along with it. On top of that, you have to have a computer to basically diagnose the vehicle to the point where some of the replacement parts are worth the initial purchasing cost of the vehicle. Now, some of the metals required to make the batteries or the electric vehicles, many of them are made out of copper. The wiring, even within the batteries, the circuit breakers, so on and so forth, they're all made out of copper. So now they're saying that our pennies are not worth the effort to stamp them. So they're going to pull them out of the currency within the United States so that it's going to be rounded to the nearest nickel. So if you're paying $3.99 for something, obviously with tax, you always paid more. Now the price is going to become an equal $4. Or if you pay, or if the cost of the product is $3.22, you're only going to pay $3.20. They're eliminating the cost of pennies. It doesn't really make sense because we are still using copper, but it is one of the minerals within the world that we import to the United States. Let it make sense, right? We have millions and millions and millions of vehicles sitting in scrap yards across the United States with tons of copper in them. But it's getting too much to recycle copper to print out more pennies. So, a word to the wise, be penny wise. Look and see through the BS that might be being fed to us or the false information. With that, within the performance world, it is something that is now being introduced. It's been around for a while, but it's starting to come from foreign-made components, especially within cylinder heads, connecting rods, and even cylinder sleeves. Some of the most modern-day performance pieces, like such as engine blocks, cylinder heads, or connecting rods, are coming in the form of a compressed powdered metal, even to the point where powdered metal valve guides are being used in some of the aftermarket cylinder head distributors. There's been tests that shows that they increase the amount of friction that happens between the valve guide and the valve. They don't last as long. They might be stronger from impact, but the valve isn't necessarily impacting the stem and the seat, or the valve guide itself. Sorry for the tongue twister. So why is that important? We're also finding out that powdered metal connecting rods, while they are being designed to be stronger than other materials, they also bring a weight along with them. And if you compare them to their counterparts of cast iron, it costs more to produce them than it's actually worth in the market as far as the strength availability. Now, brass is something that we also import to the United States. What is the largest industry that utilizes the material of brass? Outside of the valve guides within cylinder heads, where is brass used the most? Believe it or not, it's in a very small package. Our weaponry, your sidearms, the brass casings is actually the largest consumer of brass within the United States. Now, is it comparable to, say, silver or gold within the the mineral values, in some circumstances, is actually worth more. You can't eat gold, okay, but we use it as an exchange currency. Silver can be used for all kinds of different things. It can also be used within currency and money, within the nickel and so on and so forth, but the amount has been reduced drastically. Silver is mainly used in the medical fields, but we're getting to the point where more of your synthetic materials are taking the place of it. So where did all of this brass go over the last 5 years? If we go over the last 5 years with the different borders being shut down, with a handful of different cartridges used by hunters or sportsmen within the United States, there was a shortage of brass. You couldn't buy it. The shelves were empty. And now we're seeing a huge influx of individuals buying brass, once again, for either reloading, ammunition, so on and so forth, at reduced prices. Because brass normally follows the exact same market share value as gasoline. And if anybody hasn't noticed, as of October of 2025, the gallon crude oil barrel of fuel is less than $50. At the pump, we're seeing, depending on your location and what each state tax on with different taxes, we're seeing prices almost down to $2 a gallon again, folks. Now, the major push for EVs was to replace that carbon imprint that we get when we use petroleum-fueled automobiles. Fuel is the number one source within the world to power things, period. Nuclear has its place. Hydro and other forms of collecting energy have their place. But for our transportation modes of vehicles, gasoline is still number one, folks. And it's odd for anybody that follows along with politics. The last time we seen fuel drop below $2 was in the previous Trump administration. And now we're seeing crude oil barrels at below $50. It's just below. It's actually $4.49.99 right now. That 1 penny, right, going back to the penny wise. It's going to continue to go down. So while a president doesn't necessarily have the power to control our fuel prices, here we're sitting now with the lowest fuel prices we've had in 5 years. Aluminum, another metal that is being used in very large amounts. We collect it, we ship it overseas to be used in their manufacturing plants, and we bring it right back. And we're paying premium for the aluminum that we're buying from overseas. Why? Okay. Again, our scrap yards across the United States are full of aluminum. Vehicles that are no longer worth anything for resale value of parts. The engines are, not popular. They're not rebuildable. They're not interested for a performance piece. There's aluminum blocks lining the junkyards by the millions. But if you go try to buy anything made out of aluminum, an aluminum slug for, say, like CNC machining, it's extremely high. Locally where I live, we have a company called Metalco. It's a Canadian-based company that's all they do is they collect aluminum cans, different levels of aluminum from the junkyards or anything or industrial waste around here. They remelt it down into the slugs to be used to make parts for Harley Davidson, cylinder heads for Mariner, a host of different customers. Aluminum is sky high in value right now. Again, if you believe in that supply and demand, we have just as much supply as we do demand for aluminum, and it's almost being priced to the point where it's valued at gold. Folks, you got to really look deep into some things. Now, in our infrastructure, once again, folks, what is the majority of the material of our power lines? Whether you live in the north sections of the United States where the power lines are actually above ground, to some of your southern locations to where your power lines run underground. Are they still made out of copper? Is the lighting And electrical service within your homes, are they still based off of copper? Yes. We have an abundance of copper within our United States, but in order to iron ore it, or excuse me, out of the ground and import it to the United States, it's extremely rare. But we have it sitting around every place. In our infrastructure, our power lines, they're not being used as much. How many of you growing up in the 70s and 80s, you had that, really long extension cord on your house phone with the tiny wires that connected it to the wall? That doesn't exist anymore. Even the amount of copper that's inside of our phones is being reduced, smaller and smaller by the day. There was a big push. Now, this is going back to approximately the 1990s, when elements like copper were in shortage. We had older automobiles still on the road. We had a high increase of the amount of copper being used in newer automobiles. The demand was higher than the actual supply. Copper went sky high once again. Okay, going back to Pennywise. So the result was to use fiber optics. The fiber optics were more efficient to be able to transport data or electricity from one point to another. It can be used much smaller in size compared to the equivalent copper. How many of you have heard anybody using fiber optics anymore? It's kind of like non-existent. Now, there's also the ability for indirect power. We don't have to be connected through that long extension cord to be able to get power to our tools. We have portable batteries, so on and so forth. And the materials inside of the batteries are not made out of copper. They're now choosing another rare earth form element to create the batteries. When we have other components like copper, brass still available, okay? So it's all kind of a, I guess if you want to call it a conspiracy theory, but the prices aren't necessarily lining up. Some of the practices that we've used, even within fiber optics, whatever happened to them? They died approximately in that 1999-2000 era, that Y2K. After that point, I never heard anybody actually using fiber optics anymore. Now, another thing within the most recent day of 2025, something that I can report on right here in Wisconsin. Every fire station needs its fire trucks. Okay? And even to the north, our north neighbors in Canada, they are experimenting with using battery-powered fire trucks for their departments. Even the locations in Detroit are now monitoring the roads to where they're running the infrastructure, the above-ground power lines, under the streets to indirect power the fire trucks. These are still equipped with batteries, but their batteries are being charged while they are above these roads with the electronics. All of the EV vehicles that have been attempted to be made, what's happening to them? Okay, it's not catching on. The public doesn't want to take that expense. It's not popular enough, even to the point where other forms of electrical extraction are not being popular anymore. Solar is being impacted. Windmills are being impacted because of the amount of damage they do to our environment compared to even petroleum fuels. We have 100 years or more with using petroleum gasoline as efficiently as we possibly know how as of today. Okay, we can all agree to that. EV vehicles trying to replace something that was created over the last 100 years, basically perfected at this point, it's never going to take its place. Now, going back to the fire trucks, something that happened right here in Wisconsin. There was multiple companies that built fire trucks, okay, approximately 3. They have all merged together underneath the same roof, and they have been sued now by different municipalities here in Wisconsin of creating a monopoly. So any fire department in Wisconsin that wants to add an additional ladder truck or a new tanker truck, they have to go to this one single outfit to buy their equipment. And their newer fire trucks are equipped with so much of the new latest technology, the computers, the GPS, the onboard communication, to the point where even the engines and the pumps of the truck are being operated by computers. What happens when electronics get wet, they get old, or they get near heat? They're being destroyed. Now, here where I live, our local municipality just spent $3 million to purchase a newer ladder truck. Okay, an engine one, if you know what that is. They purchased it 2 years ago. It's still being constructed now. Our old mechanical fire truck is over 30 years old, has approximately 8,000 hours on the pump of the actual engine one. It's only on its second set of tires, okay? Approximately 15 or 1.5 million miles out of a set of a tire on the original truck. And in order to fix it, they can take it to any mechanic within town. Any diesel mechanic can fix it. The controls are cable operated. The only thing that might be electronic is the radio or CBs that can be changed out with newer equipment, portable equipment that doesn't have to be wired into the actual chassis of the fire truck. They don't have to worry about driving over roads for indirect power. Yes, they do have a battery on board, and it's literally 2 batteries to start the engine and run the lights, but it's not there to operate anything else on the vehicle. The life expectancy of the newest $3 million fire truck that is being ordered has a life expectancy of 10 years before the computers can start to act up. The replacement value is extremely high. They have to go with the most modern version 10 years from now if it starts to go bad. And you can't just replace those parts in the original chassis of the fire truck. You have to buy a brand new fire truck. Okay, folks, by the time our brand new $3 million EV fire truck reaches its life expectancy, our fire truck that's already 30 years old will still be in use. So there's so many things within government that obviously is about profitability, where they can collect the most taxes, what can control the stock market, what the consumer is spending within products, and how much we're bringing in through export and imports within the country. We are now seeing the impacts of higher tariffs. We're now seeing the impacts of utilizing what we already have within our borders. And we are already learning that EV vehicles, whether it be fire trucks or automobiles, are not popular enough with the public to make that complete changeover to that technology. But yet we can't print out a penny because the printing process costs more than the copper that's in the penny. Okay, folks? It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. So, first video in a while, might be interesting just to kind of get your gears turning in your head. Do you realize what's really going on? It's a much larger picture than what most of us can understand. So I'm challenging you. Think about all the different metals that you're dealing with. Okay? No other material other than a natural metal. Steel, nickel, aluminum, brass, copper, bronze, titanium. Okay, obviously that's man-made, but are mixed. What is actually worth the most? You could argue that brass is probably the most valuable metals in the world. But it's not being compared to gold or silver. Copper is one of the most dependable materials in the world. And it's nowhere near the level of gold or silver. Lead. Once again, something has to be loaded into those brass casings. Is lead being used in other components anymore? Most states have removed it for the danger that it has to human consumption. We have an abundance of lead. I dare you to go down to the local store and try to purchase a block of lead, whether it be fishing sinkers, duck decoy lead, even ammunition for black powder guns that are selling made out of lead. You actually pay more for lead than you will for brass, copper, or aluminum. How can that be? So with that, hopefully just kind of an entertaining video for you all, just to, just question some things. Are you working with this material or that within your projects? Are you realizing the aluminum cylinder heads with the powdered metal valve guides that we're purchasing now from China? The suppliers within the United States are selling those pieces as if they're some piece of gold, and they're literally junk. This brings me back on to close the video out with this. For those of you that have followed along with this channel for the last 4 years, the same individuals that came up in the very beginning of this YouTube channel, they're back at it again, trying to do the exact same thing on YouTube. We know the HR department heads and magazine editors that were included with a challenge approximately 4 years ago. They are now bringing their engine diagnostics back to YouTube. They're reloading old material that has already been found to be debunked. It's not the truth. Even so-called professional motorsports engine builders or part suppliers, they're saying, hey, we're buying this roller rocker or this roller lifter, and we suggest that all of our customers carry it. Well, for the last 10 years, this manufacturer has been known to make the worst component out there. What's changed? It's still the worst, but we have individuals now, because they are making some profit off of selling those components, they're great again. They're selling some par components. Last material, last product that I can come out and compare this to within this video. Many of you fishermen out there, you probably heard of the fishing line called spider wire. Okay, for those of you that don't know what that is, you had your monofilament, your fluorocarbon transparent fishing line that was made out of petroleum product. They then went to a weave with anywhere from 4 to 12 different strands being woven together to create a braided fishing line. Spider wire was one that was used for quite a few years. They went belly up. The amount of competition they were getting from outside agencies, they couldn't make it anymore. All they did was change their name and add proudly made in the United States. And now the new manufacturer's name is selling like hotcakes, because everybody wants to buy that American-made product, right? It's stuff that has been sitting on the shelves under the name of spider wire for approximately 15 years. All they're doing is repackaging it from spider wire into the newest manufacturer's name, and it's selling. The only thing they changed is the packaging and the label on the fishing line spool. It's the same junk. So folks, you gotta be careful. Whatever you're buying, do a lot of research into it. Don't think that if you're buying something new, you're getting something quality. Original parts are still more valuable than new stuff. No matter what the performance gain might come from, the digitizing of the ports or the combustion chambers, factory cylinder heads with hand modifications to them are still their weight in gold. Have a good one.